What am I thinking? Welcome, Devin. To
Thanks
Hot
for
Lots
having
of
me. I
Sports.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Um, so what did you think of the Super Bowl? And
Dude, I honestly think like first three quarters or so um, were not as entertaining as the fourth quarter and overtime. But I mean, just as a whole, it ended up being like one of the best. I would say probably at least like a top seven Super Bowl of all time. Just with the way it finished, and just with the like the new overtime rules and stuff like that, and all the tension that had to do with that. I think it definitely it could creep into the top five conversation as well. I wouldn't dispute that, but definitely top seven in my opinion.
yeah, yeah, it was a really fun Super Bowl, and you got two of the best teams going head to head, and
Yeah,
you know. I think honestly, everyone talks about, oh, the Chiefs is boring, but I think it's actually not a bad thing for the NFL. It's like it's kind of exciting thing. Like teams can really try and compete and take down the Chiefs. And um, but you also have to give credit to the Chiefs coaching staff. Like they're always well prepared. It's not just the the players aren't the only ones that are the reason why the teams win. The scouting department and the draft's coming up, and they always get that right. So it's like, and also for the on the Niners' point of view, it's like you can't blame you for getting outcoached against the Lions, and that's why they got to the Super Bowl. You know.
yeah, yeah. I think from like a coaching perspective, Andy Reid 100% outcoached Kyle Shanahan, especially there towards the end. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, I'm a Saints fan, and his time with the Falcons was not like forgotten, especially with all 20-3 when he was offensive coordinator in the Super Bowl. He just has a history of choking in big games, like that being the first one, and then obviously the last Super Bowl where they played against the Chiefs, and they're up 20-10 in the fourth quarter, and then Patrick, and then they were scrutinized for barely running the ball at all, in that fourth quarter. And same thing happened with his time on the Falcons when they were playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. What was that, like 7-8 years ago? Just barely running the ball in like the latter part of the game when you're already up double digits, or even more than double digits. Honestly, it doesn't really make any sense to me because that's like when you want to kill the clock and
Mhm.
chew time up so that the opposing quarterback, especially when you're playing these guys like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, it just makes it a lot more difficult um, to beat them.
But
Like
where
single-handedly, they're already great quarterbacks as it is. So
would
if
you?
you
Mhm.
go ahead, sorry.
Would you say that the reason why the Falcons choked that 28-3 is they were playing not to lose, not playing to win?
Uh, I think they were yeah. I think they definitely weren't playing it safe. I'll say that. Um, it seemed like they were just trying to keep that momentum with the passing game going because it was working so well for them in, the first three quarters or 2.5 quarters, whatever it was. Um, so I think because the passing game was working so well for them is why they continued to do it. But, the adjustments or whatever the Patriots defense made was enough to able to slow Matt Ryan down in that game. And, I just think no matter what, and, especially if you're, this is like a little bit different, but like, a situation like Dan Campbell with the Lions, when you got the ball 4th and 2 and you're up, you're already up in the game by, double digits. You just kick the field goal and make it a 3-score game instead of trying to go for it and, be aggressive And like I get the aggressive mentality when you're such a big game like the Super Bowl, or in the Lions case like the NFC Championship, but it just and there's like an asterisk next to it a lot of times. So you need to be careful.
Yeah, and in that Lions game, like it his decision really backfired because the very next play, his running back fumbled, and that spotted them 10 points. So like there's a lot of buts and ifs, like, oh, but I think from I understand like Dan's perspective, like that's his play calling is what got him to the NFC Championship, and they did lose a couple games along the way that way too, but um they also kind of got just a little unlucky at times, but Shanahan outcoached him in the fourth quarter when it mattered. But the Lions will be back. They're not gonna be a team that when one of the things he said earlier in his press conference was like, this is like was one of our best chances, but now teams know we're here. It's hard to
Yeah.
get back
Uh,
there.
I was going to bring that up, just what he said in that press conference post game. And he's honestly just speaking facts. He's not trying to be like pessimistic or anything like that. He's just trying to tell his team, like, hey, this is a really freaking tough spot to get to, you know, getting to the playoffs alone, and then especially something like that, NFC Championship. These are situations where you're playing the best of the best. These these really good teams that grinded and clawed their way into making it into the playoffs. And, you know, now, these opportunities, they don't come, they're very few and far between. They don't come like very often. You'd have to be like a really good, and I think the Lions are more than capable of doing that. You'd have to be like a really good team um, in order to, someone like, the Chiefs or the 49ers, um, or just these teams that are able to consistently put themselves in positions to make not only like a playoff run but a deep playoff run also. So it's just a testament to like how well prepared these guys are not only how well they practice, and but also how well they're coached just throughout the year, and just keeping that humble mindset. Just take it one week at a time. Don't get too ahead of yourself. Don't look too far into the distance, and or else you're going to trip over a hole right in front of you. So I think
Yeah,
it's just a testament to the coaching staff and of these teams that are very successful.
yeah, and another thing to keep in mind is, like I'm always a person that watches sports in general that's like, don't let the refs be the reason why you don't win or lose. Like you on the field, don't put the refs in position for one play to be the reason you win or lose. But at the same time, um, it's kind of crazy how the Chiefs were actually like had to overcome a lot more this year. um, I don't know if it was part of them just not being a as complete team, and they were put in bad spots where, like even in the Super Bowl, that defensive holding, what like that could have just ended it for the Niners there, and um, it like kind of saved them there. But the but yeah, the Chiefs, they know how to win. They're Andy Reid's coming back another year. And what do you think about like this franchise? They almost went like 2-14 every year before Mahomes. um, and then they won three Super Bowls in their first Super Bowl in their first 5 years after they won three Super Bowls in the first 5 years of having Mahomes.
Yeah, and that's just like that's a testament to the kind the kind of impact sorry that Mahomes has had on this team ever since he stepped in the building day one, and just speaks to his talent level, his leadership, his abilities to make plays out of nothing, And it's something that we he's in a class of his own. Never really seen anything like it in the NFL. A player come in and instantly have an impact. Guys like it's starting to happen a little bit more now. Guys like CJ Stroud come into the league and leads the Texans to their first playoff win. And it was like, or not, oh, sorry, I'm thinking of a different team. But, you know, the Texans had the second overall pick in the draft last year, so obviously they weren't the best. And then they end up going to getting a
Yeah,
playmaker like CJ Stroud, and
they
obviously puts them in an
they're
instant position to win.
yeah, they're rookies, both offense and defense won rookie of the year.
Yeah.
Will Anderson and
Yeah, it's a testament to how well they're able to draft these guys, and just the front office, and how good of a job the front office is doing and scouting players and just making sure that they got these. I don't know. CJ Stroud hasn't proven himself to be anything less than that. So especially, and also Will Anderson too. He's one of the more talented guys in the league.
yeah, and they're they're going to be exciting team to watch, and um, yeah, that route, who's going to be the bigger team in Texas, them or the Cowboys? We'll see.
Yeah.
But um, um, but yeah, the draft's coming up, and the funny thing about the draft is it's in Detroit. Um,
I didn't
so
know that draft in
yeah,
Detroit this year.
yep.
Uh,
Um,
hmm.
so it's going to be an interesting reception there. Um, as always. But so kind of piggybacking off the NBA All-Star game, it's kind of funny how the NFL gets grown men to pay real money to watch flag football. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
No, it's just great. It's crazy, honestly.
yeah, I mean, you get grown men flying out across the country or world to watch um, these players. I guess the motivation is in the 28 Olympics, flag football will be a Olympic sport, um, um, but that's going to be but with the rule changes in the NFL and um, I just really miss some of the old rules like overloading the side on onside kick. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No, that was a lot more entertaining. That's why I understand why people call it like a softer league nowadays. And but I mean, it also like makes sense because you want to like if you keep things the way they were and not adjust things, um, rules and stuff like that, and penalizing and heavily fining players for these unnecessary nasty hits that they're putting on other players. Um, Stuff like that's going to keep happening, and then what's going to a ton of lawsuits in the future, just dealing with player safety and stuff like that, and then eventually they could potentially be out of business. So what they're trying to do is just increase the longevity of the league and make
yeah,
sure their players, because when their players are safe, they're better players, they're able to play longer careers, and able to bring in more revenue for the NFL just because obviously the better players are more fun to watch.
yeah, and there's so many like ways that the NFL's tried to combat it. Um, but with officiating, it's so wishy-washy, and a roughing the passer call is a sub is an objective, um, like what you think is roughing the passer may not be what another person thinks.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's like it's some, and it's like say you're a Chiefs fan and um, roughing the passer gets called on Mahomes, you're going to be in favor of the refs because that's your bias. That's your, you tend to side with, whichever human being is calling in your favor, and then say they're playing the Texans and Will Anderson gets called for that. Obviously you're not going to be happy as a Texans fan, and you're going to be more biased to see things through a different, like more biased perspective, even if it may have really been leaning towards, a very obvious, roughing the passer or something like that,
Another good
just kind
example.
of, get all the perspective.
Yeah, another good example was when the Saints Rams created a rule change um, back
Yeah.
with the pass interference to passes now that um, changed the game. That was another big one that um, you can now challenge calls like that, which I think is actually a good thing. Um,
Yeah.
which um, like because before, like either they saw it or they didn't. Um,
Yeah. And I mean, just that rule that was put into place, it's funny because they put it into place to like be able to review these pass interference calls and stuff like that, and then it ended up just really not working out, and they took it back
mhm,
like literally after 1 year, and they still couldn't figure it out. So I mean, I like you know
mhm.
seeing it in real time, and then seeing it on the camera is just, I don't know. I feel like you definitely have a better perspective if you like rewatch it, especially since it's on the moment. If you rewatch it, um,
Hmm.
like digitally or whatever like that. But I do think it's kind of silly how they just kind of went back to their old ways.
Yeah. Um, so the 2025 Super Bowl is gonna be on um, Fox next year. Um,
Yeah.
um, at the
I have
Caesars
a question.
Superdome.
What do you think
Yeah.
about, with Max, what do you think about the when how like whenever a station gets a Super Bowl every year,
Yeah.
they reveal their scoreboard, their new scoreboard for the upcoming 3 seasons or whatever it is until they get another one.
Hmm.
I don't know if you noticed like CBS's. What did you, if you did, what did you think about it? Because I personally, I didn't really like it. I thought it was just kind of like boring looking, and I thought they could have definitely put more effort into it.
Yeah, it seemed like very yeah, basic. Like it's the Super Bowl, you could put a lot more effort in. Um, like this is like the one event all year that if you're gonna, you could work on the project for 5 years just to work on it. Um, but um, but yeah, let me um see. Yeah, so it's gonna be in the um Louisiana,
See
New
the
Orleans.
Superdome? Yeah,
Um,
I'm actually gonna
yeah.
be at that game too, so that should be fun.
Oh, you're gonna be at the Super Bowl or in New Orleans?
At the Super Bowl, I
Oh,
have
so
a
you
family, I have a family friend who already got us tickets, so I'm pretty excited about that.
okay? So maybe it'll be a Saints Super Bowl.
Why not? I don't
Um,
know. Maybe, but odds are leaning towards no.
but
Maybe the
it will
week I'll see
be.
Joe Burrow there. Essentially, I'll
Yeah,
see Joe. You never know.
that.
But
Yeah,
just knowing the way the league's going, like it'll probably be Mahomes again.
yeah. Um, and another thing that's interesting is SoFi is hosting the Super Bowl again in 2027.
Okay, I don't remember seeing that, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so they really like that
Oh, two of them.
game.
Yeah, two of them. Three are in California.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's gonna be
Uh,
um so
well, I think from now on, like after that Raiders or after the Super Bowl, this last Super Bowl that was held in Allegiant Stadium, they're going to be having a lot more just because the NFL recognizes that Vegas is like the like entertainment capital of the world with, you know, tons of sports bettors and, you know, tons of casinos and stuff like that. So they're going to
Yeah.
try and push as many Super Bowls as they possibly can the next, like, you know, two decades, you know, into that stadium.
Yeah. And do you think the Panthers should, do you think Bryce Young just had a bad rookie year, or do you think he's gonna struggle again?
Um, no, I think I don't know because there are a couple of really bad throws that he made throughout the season last year. But then you can also tell he has like some like pro style traits already. Like he's very good at just like staying poised within the pocket and not panicking, and like within, you know, not panicking within like 2 seconds rolling out and then throwing the ball away or something like that. So you can tell he's got his vision down the field at all times, and he's constantly just looking for, you know, he's looking to find an open receiver. I mean, with that being said, I do think that you know, their receiving core is not very, you know, not very good. I would say it's definitely probably bottom 10, if not, you know, bottom 7 or 8 in the league. So I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things they need to like pack in free agency or spend some draft capital on that.
And talking about
Because
free
their number
agency,
one
that
receiver,
starts in a less than a month now.
yeah, yeah, it's creeping up on us.
Yeah, and
But
another
I do think no,
um
I just think that, you know, with their number one receiver right now being Adam Thielen, and Thielen's obviously he's in his early 30s, I believe. I think he's like 32 or 31, 32 or 33, something like that. Um, he's getting towards the end of his career. I know he started off the season hot last year, but towards the end, you can kind of see he like it kind of went on a downhill spiral from there. But you know, I think yeah, I think that's one of that should be one of their main focuses, if not the very main focus in free agency and in the draft, is just being able to get one of the top receivers. You know, say a guy like, uh, you know, I think they didn't they give they traded their pick to the Bears, right? Or the Bears have their pick.
yeah.
Yeah. So, um,
And talking about the Bears, I think they should fold the franchise if they pick Caleb Williams in the first round. Um, Justin
yeah,
Fields is legit, and he's shown it with a healthy O line and some weapons around him. There's absolutely no reason to make this rebuilding phase any longer than it needs to be. Um, because they were like they almost made the playoffs towards the end. Like they were in the
yeah,
playoff picture through like the last
yeah,
2 weeks. Um,
yeah,
um, but like if you add a Marvin Harrison or a Neighbors or Ozune to that team, like that's gonna pay off for the Bears.
yeah. And yeah, I definitely, I think I agree with you there. Um, I did notice this is like just a side comment, but they did, or Fields unfollowed the Bears, I guess, on social media today on Instagram.
Oh
I
wow.
don't know if
That
that has a lot of like weight to it or anything like that. Sometimes, you know, I know, I mean, it could be wrong, but AJ Brown's removed all the Eagles content from his Instagram
hmm.
during the playoffs or right before they played the Bucks in the last playoff game this past year. But he was stating that it really had, you know, had nothing to do with the team or anything like that. It was just more so he's trying to clean up his Instagram. That's what he's saying. But you know, I don't know what's going on with Justin Fields, and you know, I could see why he could. You know, there might be some stuff going on behind the scenes with the Bears front office and whatnot, where he kind of gets the feeling they're leaning more towards Caleb Williams, and he's just not like he doesn't like that very much because I know towards the end of the season he was
Hmm.
I think he balled out. He didn't really do much the very last game of the season, but I think the second or third to last game of the season, he really like balled out and like tried to prove himself to the Bears and why they should keep him. And I think they just need. I think they're maybe one more just playmaker. Like you're saying, like a guy like you know Marvin Harrison Jr. they could take with the first pick. But I mean, I think if I was them, um, I would definitely. I don't think I would try to take him with the first. I would maybe like trade back with a team that really is in desperate need of a quarterback.
And Brock
you
Bowers
know,
would be a great target for him, kind of like a Kyle Pitts type look.
yeah, Brock Bowers would be good. I know they have Cole Kmet right now, but he's not a guy that can get you over the top. Brock Bowers is like could be like a Travis Kelsey, more athletic Travis Kelsey type. And he could have a long career like Kelsey's had so far. So um, I guess we'll see. Honestly,
Yeah. Do you um think um like it's going to be a pretty competitive next year, or do you think it's going to be the same powers? And do you think the Bengals will be the one that stops the Chiefs?
uh, I do think the Bengals could be up there again. Um, I think I read some news where they were planning on franchise tagging T Higgins, so that would definitely help out a lot. Because if he left, I mean, they could also they could find a gem in the draft. I know I don't know where they're picking, but they could find you know a, a higher talent level receiver. Can you check that right now where the Bengals are picking?
Yeah. I mean, ones. Yeah. So the
Yeah, no, I guess
they
they're leaning towards just franchise tagging T Higgins.
18.
Okay, okay, so they're like towards the middle. Gotcha. But yeah, I mean, like if you keep a guy like Higgins like one more year, this may be the Bengals' best year or um, best opportunity at getting Burrow's first ring, ever. I think the talent level of the team just it's at its peak right now. I thought they had a really good shot at it last year. They did lose a guy like Brian Callahan, who was their offensive coordinator. He's now the Titans head coach. Um, but I think, with the talent level that they have just offensively, um, Zach Taylor does have like a tendency to not be calling his best shots like the first half of the season. And
This, yeah,
something just clicks.
with Saban retiring, I could see like this be a perfect fit for the in the Bengals um like offensive scheme. Um, but um, do you have any other predictions going into the season before we wrap this up?
Um, I think everything's shaping up to be like, the Bengals make it back to the Super Bowl next year just because it's in Louisiana. And that's sort of not Burrow's hometown, but like he went to school at LSU and some Jamar Chase, stuff like that. I am probably predicting like maybe a Bengals Niners Super Bowl. Again, a rematch of Super Bowl 23.
And another
Um,
thing that I'm
or
gonna so Shepty reported that the Raiders are likely to cut Garoppolo before the new year starts. So he's gonna be, oh, like some teams who are in quarterback need will be able to have a veteran right now.
Yeah, I think they could use a guy like Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield potentially. Even. I think Baker's going to stay with the Buccaneers. But Kirk Cousins is a guy that could fit really well into what they're trying to do, and just maybe you could have. And Kirk's like still very good. Before he tore his Achilles last year, that might hurt him a little bit, but he's still, I think, like at least like a top 12
Yeah,
quarterback in the league.
the biggest
Maybe,
question from the draft perspective is no one knows what the Falcons' idea of quarterback is. Um, because they're definitely going to draft one, but they've been kind of quiet.
yeah, I definitely don't think Ritter's the answer. Um, I think that was a guy they were just like they panic drafted because Matt Ryan was I don't remember if he was gone or if he was in the last year of his career, or his last year on the Falcons before he went to the Colts. But I definitely don't think Ritter's a guy. I haven't really seen any like potential in him that could
Mhm.
potentially change my opinion. But I think they need to explore other options, whether it be go and get a guy like Kirk Cousins, and then maybe have Ritter sit behind them for a year and see what happens. Or they could just completely scratch Ritter and go
Oh,
out and draft a different guy.
and just to close off, what do you think about the Eagles having a home game in Brazil in week one on a Friday to open the season?
That should be crazy. It'll be different. It'll definitely be different for the NFL. Um, just having a different culture, um, just having a different culture and introducing that different culture, that different country into the NFL. I think Brazil's like I've never been there, but it's definitely a very like unique spot to like host a week one game.
Yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for me. Unless you have any other last comments or concerns, thank you for your time.
All right, thanks, Max. Have a good one. I appreciate you having me on. Hopefully,
Yeah,
we can do this a little bit.
yeah, definitely. All right, have
All
a good
right,
night.
all right, you too, bro. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.